All right, class, welcome back. We've been working our way through Aquinas' 5 ways, his 5 proofs for the existence of God. Today, we're diving into the 4th way. You'll hear it called the argument from gradation, or more famously, the argument from perfection. Now, I know for a lot of you, especially coming from a hard sciences background, that word perfection can immediately set off alarm bells. It sounds subjective, maybe a little fuzzy. But what's fascinating is that Aquinas builds this argument not on some vague feeling, but on a very simple, very direct observation about the world we all experience every single day. So let's just follow the logic, see where it takes us.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with that simple, everyday observation. Then, we have to define our terms. What does Aquinas actually mean by perfection? From there, we'll connect it to the very idea of existence, explore the logic of how we compare things, and then see how that leads to what he calls the maximum, and what that has to do with God. It's a step-by-step climb.
So let's start at the beginning with something we all just do. We do it constantly, without even realizing it. We compare things.
I mean, really think about it for a second. We say this was a good movie, but that one was better. This student's answer is true, but this other answer is truer because it's more complete and precise. We look at 2 actions and say one was more noble, more courageous. How? How are we able to make these judgments? It's because we're constantly, instinctively, placing things on a scale. We live in a world of more or less.
And this is it. This is the bedrock of the entire argument. Aquinas is just pointing his finger at our direct experience. He's not asking you to believe anything yet. He's just saying, look around. You see it too, right? We see degrees of qualities in everything. Some things are hotter, some are brighter, some are better. This experience of gradation is his empirical starting point. The real question is, what does that observation logically force us to conclude?
Okay, before we take another step, we have to pause and get really clear on this word, perfection. Because our modern 21st century idea of it is probably not what Aquinas had in mind. We hear perfect and we think flawless, 100% on the exam, no errors whatsoever, something that seems pretty much impossible to find in the real world. But that's not his definition.
The word comes from the Latin perfectum, which literally just means thoroughly made or complete. For Aquinas, a thing is perfect when it fully is what it's meant to be. It's about completeness. A perfect oak tree isn't some mythical glowing tree, it's just a healthy, strong oak tree that has everything it needs to thrive as an oak tree. It has achieved the full actuality of its nature.
So let's just put these 2 ideas side by side to make it clear. Our modern sense is usually a static ideal. Flawless, no mistakes. The Aquinian meaning is much more dynamic. It's about being fully actualized, fully real. A 3-legged dog is still a good dog, right? But it's not a perfect dog in this philosophical sense because it lacks something that belongs to the completeness of a dog's nature. So perfection isn't about being flawless. It's a measure of how fully something is.
And this leads us to what is, honestly, one of the most profound ideas in his entire philosophy. He argues that the most basic, most fundamental perfection of all is just the act of existing. Aquinas is saying here that esse, the Latin word for to be, the simple act of existing, is what makes anything and everything real. I mean, think about it. You can have the perfect blueprint for a building, its form, its essence, its whatness, but until someone actually builds it, it's just a potential. Existence is what takes that potential and makes it actual. So in this way of thinking, just to be is the first and greatest perfection. And you can see this laid out as a kind of hierarchy. Everything on this list exists, but they exist in richer, fuller ways as you go up. A rock just is. It has being. But a plant is, and it's also alive. That's a richer mode of being. An animal is alive, and it has sensation. And then a human is alive, senses, and has reason. Each step up the ladder has more actuality, a greater share in being, and therefore a higher degree of perfection. Okay, so we've got 2 pieces on the board. 1, we experience the world in degrees of more or less. And 2, we can think of these degrees as degrees of perfection or being. Now, Aquinas brings in the logical engine of the argument. He asks a really sharp question. How is it even possible for us to say something is more or less, anything?
And here's his answer. The very idea of a scale, of more and less, only makes sense if there's a most, a maximum that serves as the ultimate standard. You can't say the water is getting warmer unless you have a concept of maximum heat that it's getting closer to. And this is the key move. Aquinas argues this maximum isn't just a yardstick, it's the actual cause of that quality in everything else on the scale.
He gives us a great simple analogy. Think about the color white. We can look at a wall and say, it's a little off-white, or that's more of a cream color. How can we say it's less white? Only because we have a concept of pure white as the standard we're measuring against. Everything that has some white in it is participating in the quality of whiteness, a quality that finds its maximum, its purest form, in that standard.
So you can probably see where this is going. We're now going to take that exact same logic, not about heat or color, but about the most fundamental quality of them all, being itself.
All right, now this next part is a bit of a metaphysical workout, so stick with me. For any created thing you can imagine, a tree, a star, a person, we can always make a distinction between what it is, its essence, and the fact that it is, its existence. I can describe the whatness of a unicorn perfectly, right? But that doesn't make one pop into existence in this classroom. Its essence and its existence are separate. But, Aquinas argues, if there is a maximum of being, that can't be true for it. For the ultimate standard and source of existence, its very whatness must be to exist. It doesn't just have being, like you and me. It is being.
Aquinas gives this maxima a technical philosophical name, ipsum esse subsistens. It translates to subsistent being itself. This isn't just the biggest being on the cosmic total pole. It is the uncaused, unlimited wellspring from which all other things, which all have limited, borrowed being, receive their very existence. And this, Aquinas concludes, is what everybody understands to be God. And this quote just nails it. Think about it. If you had a thing that was subsisting heat itself, it couldn't possibly be cold, right? By its very nature, it would be maximally hot. By that same logic, if God is subsisting being itself, then no perfection that we find in reality, goodness, truth, life, intelligence, can possibly be missing from him. He must be the fullness of all being.
Now, a really common question at this point, especially for a scientifically minded person, is, okay, so what's the relationship here? Is the universe just a piece of God? Is it all the same thing? And Aquinas is incredibly clear on this.
No. Absolutely not. This argument does not lead to pantheism, the idea that the universe and God are identical. For Aquinas, there is an absolute distinction between the creator and the creation. The relationship isn't identity, it's what he calls participation.
So, what does he mean by participation? Well, it means that things like us and trees and planets, we don't have existence on our own terms. We don't own it. We receive it moment to moment from the one source that is existence. My being is a caused, limited share in being itself. We all reflect the perfection of being, but each of us does it in our own limited way. It's like our existence is an analogy, a likeness of God's pure, unlimited existence.
I think this analogy is just perfect for understanding this. Think of a massive stained glass window. The sun is the single source of all the light. Now, the blue pane of glass doesn't have a little chunk of the sun inside of it, of course not, but it receives the sunlight, and it expresses that one pure light in its own unique, limited, blue way. And the red pane expresses it in a red way. In the same manner, every single created thing receives existence from God and expresses that singular perfection according to its own nature.
And that's really where this argument leaves us. It starts with something as simple as saying one thing is better than another, and through this chain of reasoning, it presents a picture of reality as this incredible hierarchy of being, all of it flowing from and being held in existence by one single perfect source. So the argument poses a final question to us. If this is a coherent model of reality, what does that mean for us? What does it mean to be a human being, a creature with reason at the top of the material ladder of perfection? What does our own ability to even recognize things like truth and goodness tell us about where we came from and where we might be headed? That's definitely something to chew on. We'll pick it up there next time.